having a fantastic day, that you're getting ready for all of the festivities ahead for next week. I am stoked to bring you a very easy blue and green eyeshadow tutorial that kind of hints on the turquoise side. So it's perfect for holiday makeup, but you know that I'm a practical person, and this is also a look that can transition you well into spring makeup. You can rock it in the summertime. Today I wanted to show it, even though I'm wearing some Christmas tree earrings, I wanted to show that it can also have a little bit of a fall vibe. I paired it with a teal sweater and then kind of an orangey nude lip and kind of a fall themed blush on my cheeks. So literally this is a look that you can rock all year long, and something tells me, I've got a little bit of a hunch that the color of the year for 2020 might have something to do with teal, maybe some blue and green, because with all the pops of blue and green that I'm seeing in makeup palettes, and then definitely walking around the stores with accessories, there's been a lot of blue and green and teal. So this could be a look that maybe you want to keep in your back pocket to try out as we go into the spring with our makeup. So without further ado, if you have the Anastasia Subculture palette or Anastasia Beverly Hills Subculture palette, I'm going to show you basically, if I were using this palette only, the shades that I would kind of work with out of here. But since I worked very diligently on panning a lot of this eyeshadow for the single ladies of my Man Matte Project Pan, I am subbing in some other shadows that I'll talk you through, and I'll also kind of walk you through how I would recreate this look as I do my Back to MAC Pan That palette for 2020. So without further ado, I hope that you enjoy this look as much as I've been wearing it. It's a very easy, like I said, really focuses on the greens. So in particular, out of the Subculture palette, we're going to be looking at the shades of Electric, then going in with the beautiful teal shade of Axis, and then we're going to be working with, if you have a shade like Roxy, and then some warm browns. And then the only things that you really need to bring in from your collection are going to be an easy highlighter shade that you like to wear, and then some teal mascara, just a little pop on the edge of this look to really give it a vibe, and then also a teal eyeliner. So here we go. Let's get into it. All right, the very first thing that I'm going to do is I prime my eyes with a very basic eye primer. I'm going through with my MAC Paint Pot because that is like a trusty old friend. It never does me wrong. Everything just sits beautifully on top of it. And then as we start working with our eye shapes, I have hooded eyes, and so one of the things that works to be the most flattering thing for me to minimize the hood of my lid is to definitely go in with a transition shade. If you are working with your Anastasia Subculture palette, the shade that I would go in with is Dawn. Now, Dawn was a shade that came across a little bit orange on me, like it oxidized to kind of an orangey shade. It works beautifully. So if you want to use that as a transition shade, we are going to be putting some other shades on top of it. But just take a fluffy crease brush and run that through. Since I have finished on, I'm actually using just a warm brown that I had in my collection, and the shade that I have been using comes out of the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette called Puree. It's just a basic warm brown. If you're using MAC shadows for next year, I would be thinking soft brown as one that I would instantly reach for, or if you like a cooler tone brown from MAC, Kid would be another suggestion that would definitely be a beautiful combination for this eye look. But basically, any of your palettes, you can find a really nice warm brown that is flattering on most skin tones. So just run that through your crease. Then the second thing that I'm doing, I have two jumbo eye pencils from NYX. There was one that I had in my collection that I love wearing under green shadows in particular, and this is the NYX Jumbo Eyeshadow Pencil in the shade Horseradish. Like I said, you can probably find these online. That's what I'm going to do when I need to get another pencil. But it's a really bright green color. There's a little bit of iridescence to it, a little bit of a metallic finish. But what I like to do with this is I run it across my lid, because when I wear the shade Electric from my Subculture palette, it can make a huge mess all over the place. And so this just gives me a nice tacky base to adhere that shadow to my eyelid, and then I don't have any problems with it fading during the day or creating a lot of unnecessary fallout on my cheeks. The other thing that I do, I've done this in every single Get Ready With Me, because this is a tip that is most flattering for me as a glasses wearer and also for my hooded eyes. I take the NYX Jumbo Eyeshadow Pencil in the shade Milk, and I use it to stamp into my inner corners and onto my brow bone, and then I blend it in with my ring fingers just to really open up my eye space, to brighten up that eye space. It definitely helps to amp up the concealer that I have going on under my eyes to just really enliven my face. And it also makes my eyes appear a little bit larger because since I'm nearsighted, when I put my frames back on my face, it can make my eyes look quite a bit smaller than they do without my glasses on. So just tip for thought if you are a glasses wearer. Then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take a sponge tip applicator. I don't like using a brush or even using my finger because it spreads the NYX Jumbo Eyeshadow Pencil everywhere, but I'm going through with the shade Electric from my Subculture palette, and I'm just taking that all over my lid and definitely making sure to cover up all that green color. And what I like about that bright horseradish shade under it is it really brightens up Electric. It doesn't come off as gold as it does in the pan, but it's not as dark as if you put it on top of a you know, kind of a medium to a deeper green kind of tone. It really gives it a bright, fun iridescence on your eyes, and if you have brown eyes especially, it's really going to be flattering to make the lighter tones of your eyes really pop. So they're not just going to be dark brown. You're going to see little flecks of gold and little flecks of even kind of an auburn shade, and your eyes can appear lighter even with having the green shadow. So it's super, super flattering. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about is if you don't have the Subculture palette, but you're a ColourPop fan, the shade that I would sub in for Electric is the shade Tea Garden from ColourPop. And as I wear this look into next year, this is definitely going to be a shadow that I reach into. Let me show you a swatch on the skin. It's a little bit less green than the Electric shade, but when you put it on top of the horseradish shade, you're going to get a very similar effect. Because it's a super fun shadow that I have to admit, you know, for a while I always kind of overlooked the duochrome goodness that it is, because I would look at the shade and be like, oh, it's too greeny gold, it's going to make my skin look washed out or ashy or whatever. But no, it's a really flattering shade, especially if you have brown eyes and you pair it with like olives and greens and teals and blues. It is absolutely spectacular. So then as far as highlighting shades, the Subculture palette, really the only highlighting shade that I found for me in that palette was the shade Cube. It's a little too intense for this look, so I would pull in something from your collection that you find you like to gravitate towards. If you like a matte finish highlight, or if you like a shimmery finish highlight, I would go with something that is in the vanilla range, not stark white, but not completely cream, something that's kind of the happy medium in the middle. So the shade that I have been wearing for the past, I mean, long while, is from L'Oreal. It's one of their Color Rouge singles in the shade Paris Beach. It's just a basic cream, kind of like Wet n Wild's Brulee, but it has a little bit more of a shimmery texture to it than Brulee, because I think Brulee is matte, isn't it? I don't remember off the top of my head, but just a basic creamy shade. And I'm taking it through with an e.l.f. Shadow brush, and I'm just stamping it on top of those areas that I put that NYX Jumbo Eyeshadow Pencil. So definitely in my inner corner, and I blend it up a little bit, and then on my brow bone, and blend it out to the outer edges of my brow. I love, love that shade. Now we're going to get into the fun part of the look where I feel like it really starts coming together. And what I like to do is I like to take a fluffy crease brush. You can use one from Morphe. There's a Real Techniques brush that came from their blue, I want to say it's the Blue Diamond line. But any of your favorite fluffy crease brushes, like make it kind of the bigger, the fluffier brush, the better, so that you can really blend out that color so it's not just like a blotch on your eye. Does that make sense? Oh, I could so think of other ways to phrase that, but you don't want blotchiness, you know what I mean? Like you want it to be blended out. So if you're going through with a Subculture palette, the shade that I would work with is that beautiful matte olive green in the top called Destiny. Oh my goodness, I love that shade. So the easiest way that I have found to use that shade is to dab my brush a little bit into that pan, tap off the excess, and then I blend it into the outer corner of my eye and blend it up into my crease area. I only take it about halfway, maybe a little bit further on my eye, because I'm going to blend it out with an even deeper espresso brown, but I wanted to make sure that it's not like hugely like transition shade and then a like block of crease shade and then a block of what we're gonna have for the outer corner shade. You want to blend it up into the crease area, make it super, super blended and pretty. It's just awesome. And kind of what I was thinking ahead, because I actually don't have another matte olive shade in my collection, which was a huge disappointment. However, I went through with my MAC shadows, looked around in my collection to see what I might do next year, because like I said, if blues, greens, and teals are going to be kind of the theme for the color of the year, I'm going to be rocking a lot of this eye look moving into my MAC shadows. So the one that I pulled out that I would absolutely sub in place of Destiny would be this beautiful shade called Sumptuous Olive. Sumptuous Olive is not a matte shadow, but I treat it as a matte when I wear it in my crease area. It's a little bit more gold toned, a little bit brighter than Destiny, but I figure if I can build it up in my crease area and then go through and anchor it down with an espresso brown, I'm gonna get a similar effect. It's just a little bit lighter, a little bit more gold, but that's okay, we'll work with it. So Sumptuous Olive is another take, or if you have another favorite palette in your collection that has kind of those grungier tones, find an olive shade, it will be stunning, stunning. And then what the next thing I do is I take just a basic espresso brown. I happen to be using Maybelline's Made for Mocha, and I just take kind of a flat topped eyeshadow brush from Real Techniques, and I just stamp that deep espresso shade in my outer corner just to really anchor the look down. It kind of tones down the green a little bit to make it a little bit more flattering, because otherwise it can tend to wash me out. So that's one tip that I offer you if you kind of struggle with some color families in your wardrobe. Anchor them down with some black shadow or with an espresso shadow or with like a deep charcoal, and you can make many, many colors that you thought were not going to be an option for you to wear suddenly wearable and fun, and then you get to experiment and get creative. So like I said, Made for Mocha is what I'm wearing from Maybelline, but pretty much a matte espresso brown, you can find that in many of your palettes at home. They're just a beautiful way to just anchor everything down, but it's not super harsh, but also it can make it very wearable. And if you're a glasses wearer especially, it can help your eye look a lot more prominent under your frame, since that's another struggle that we have, you know what I mean? So there we go. Then to blend out my crease, I really love using warm shadows. It's something that I learned to embrace as I panned the Kat Von D Vita Loca Remix palette back in 2018. And so if you have the Anastasia Subculture palette, the shade I would use is Roxy. And all I do is I take a very small fluffy eyeshadow brush and I just blend my crease out to make sure that there aren't any harsh lines. It offers a little bit of warmth, a little bit of depth into the look, and then it also makes it a little bit more flattering, because with that green, it can look really sallow and really odd and kind of weird looking. But then if I warm it back up with a very neutral shade, even if it's a bright orange, it just does something to anchor the look down. And especially once I put my bronzer on and my cheek color, my lip color, it just brings that look to life. It's absolutely stunning. So I'm out of the shade Roxy. So what I have been using lately is I've gone through with a shade from Too Faced. This came out of the Too Faced Peachy Matte palette, and this is called Peach Punch. Another shade that I would go for is if you have Max Coral, or if you have other shade that comes to mind is if you have the Anastasia Sultry palette, that beautiful shade in there called Bloom. I think it's Bloom in the Sultry palette. That's kind of the shade I was inspired by as I initially started to pan this shade. And I just love it. I love it and adore it. And that's one way that you can find some inspiration to use that shadow out of your Sultry palette if you own it and haven't necessarily found a way that you really love wearing it. It makes a gorgeous transition blending shade for any eye look that you possibly want to wear. It's just one of those things that I wouldn't have necessarily thought about, but now that I have it in my tips and tricks with different eye looks, it's just something that I constantly want to reach for, because it brings that extra zhuzh to any eye look. All right, next we're going to talk about some liner, because this is where I feel like you can transition the look for any season of the year. You can make it deeper and more intense for, you know, times like now where we've got holiday parties coming up and we're wearing, you know, scarves and chunky sweaters and big coats. and just kind of embracing those cooler tone vibes. But then you can also really liven this up and make it kind of more tropical themed if you want to have spring and summer makeup. So in terms of eyeliner, what I've gone through and done is I've used a basic black eyeliner pencil on my upper lash line. That tends to be my favorite formula with my hooded eyes since I don't have a lot of mobile lid space to work with. But go through with your favorite formula, whether it's going to be a gel, a liquid, a pencil. Go with your favorite black eyeliner. And then what I like to do to give it a little bit of a bite and edge and really tie in that electric shade is I go through with my shade Axis and I set that liner using the teal on top of the black. It really helps it to intensify the teal. It offsets my brown eyes just in a major way, and it really brings out the lighter tones in my eyes. It makes them stand out and be more prominent, where it's not about necessarily wearing the green eyeshadow now. It's really about focusing on bringing out the intensity of our eye colors. So just absolutely beautiful, beautiful way to kind of change up your liner game a little bit. And then if you want to transition this look into spring and summer makeup, the easiest way to do it is just to use a teal liner instead and then set it with Axis. The teal liner that I really enjoy is the Revlon Color Stay Cream Gel Pencil in the shade Private Island. It's just a basic teal. It's basically the same shade as Axis, but in a pencil form. I love using this on my upper lash line when I really want to brighten up the look over that electric shade, and then I go through and set it with Axis. And then to kind of transition into next year, since I'm going to be working with so many MAC shadows, the shade that I pulled out to definitely redo this look again with more of my MAC shadows is to take the shade Plumage in place of Axis. So it's basically the same color. It's actually a little bit darker and a little bit more densely packed. It's not as powdery as Axis, so it's actually probably going to be a little bit easier to use because I won't have to worry about some fallout. But this is what Plumage looks like on the skin. MAC shadows don't necessarily swatch as well, but rest assured, it is a gorgeous shade on top of your upper lash line. So wanted to give you that tip so you can go on and expand your eyeliner game a little bit. And then for our lower lash line, I go through with just a basic cream color pencil to brighten up my eyes, make them look a little bit more awake, more well-rested. You know how that goes. And then that liner that I told you about, you can use any teal liner out of your collection. It doesn't have to be the specific one. But I go through with that teal liner and then I line my lower lash line and again set it with Axis. Or you can also brighten it up and take a really bright teal liner if you have something that's more aqua shaded or, you know, kind of a lighter theme. Or you could even go through and use purples. You could use olive green. You could use blues. Any of those would tie in so beautifully to the look, and then you'd have that little bit of contrast going from your upper lash line to your lower lash line. So beautiful, beautiful, beautiful way to kind of set off this look. And then one last tip I wanted to show you before we go is when you do your mascara, go on and do your favorite mascara routine. And then kind of the cherry on top of this ice cream sundae, if you will, is to go through with the teal mascara. And my favorite brand for colorful mascaras is always to go with a standard like Hard Candy. And I basically layer it on top of a black mascara on my upper and lower lash line. And it just adds the pop to really make this look a standout. Definitely looks like I put way more effort into it than I did. And also, again, it intensifies the eye color to sky high expectations. It's absolutely beautiful, and I love the price point of the Hard Candy mascaras. You can find these at Walmart. They are less than $5 a tube. I sing the praises of the blue mascara all the time. The teal is also another one of my favorites, and the plum one, they are must-haves in my collection. So that about rounds it out, because this eye look, you can pair it with any color of blush you want. You can pair it with any lip color you want. I have worn this particular eye look with red lipstick for a holiday themed party already. I've worn it with this fall toned lipstick. This is Maybelline's Spice For Me on top of the Milani's lip liner in the shade Spice. I've also worn it with nude lip colors. I've worn it with gloss. I've worn it with Peachy Corals before. like I said, this is a look that's going to transition well all the way through the year. It is a seasonless way to incorporate some blues, some greens, some teals, because I know those tend to be colors that we don't necessarily touch on a regular basis, but I want to give you this inspiration because they are just as wearable as any other color. You can feel confident when you walk into your job in the morning, or when you're going to school, or when you're running around taking care of errands and things that you need to do and just living your life. It is a perfect way to kind of up the ante a little bit and, you know, take your makeup to another level instead of just sticking with the same old, same old. So thank you so much for giving me some of your time today. I really appreciate you. I hope that you have a fantastic rest of your week. I'm going to be putting out a few more videos of Get Ready With Me's that I've really gravitated towards with my subculture palettes, so that I hope that you will stay tuned. And until next time, take care, and I will see you soon.